Okay, so today I'm going to teach you how to set up your sheet in Excel. So the first thing we're going to do is just slide over to View. We're going to click on that. We're going to click on Page Layout View. So now we can see what is going to fit on each page. Next, I'll go over to Page Layout, and we're going to click Orientation and click Landscape. And then we're going to go to Margins and click Narrow. So now we can kind of maximize the space that's on this page. I'll start by setting up the first day. We're going to hit Command A or Control A. We'll go home, and we're going to just center everything both left to right and up to down. And I'm going to start building out my card. So we'll start with date, exercise. So the date is going to go this way across, and the exercises are going to go down. So for each day, we'll have a reps and a weight column. So we'll have the date that's merged. And so I'll select those both by clicking the first one, hitting Shift and selecting the next one. And I'll click this merge button here. And so I'll just write week 1. And then we're going to do the same thing, select merge. And then you can also just copy this. In this corner here, if you notice how my cursor changes to a little black T, I can just drag it. And now it copies that same merged cell again. So I'll go week 2 and week 3. Okay, and then I'm going to copy reps and weight under each of those. So we'll just start making a 2-day, 3-week program just to start. So we talked about having our explosive exercise. So let's say we want them to do 4 working sets, but I want to remind that there's the warm-up set. Okay, so I'm just going to merge 5 of those rows. I'm going to go explosive 1, for example. I'm just going to write warm-up just so they remember to do a warm-up set. And then I'm going to go 4 sets of 3, for example. Okay. Let's say I want to do that same thing for all 3 weeks, and we're just going to progress our weight. Okay. For our next exercise in this first block, I might select something like a med ball throw that they don't necessarily need to write in a different weight for each set. So maybe I'll just write 4 sets of 3. And I'll copy that. And then maybe I'll do the same thing for a mobility. And we'll go 4 sets of 8. And I'll copy that. Whoops. Okay, so if that happens to you, you can just type in A1 right in that corner there. Boom. Sometimes it gets a little, if you hit the wrong button. Okay, so now I've got that first block built out. Let's say for our second block, I'm going to pick a strength exercise that I want them to do 4 sets again. So I'm going to select 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to merge those. I'm going to remind them to do a warm-up set again. And then let's say I want them to do 4 sets of 5. And let's say, for example, that they're going to do that same thing all 3 weeks, and they'll just progress their weight as they go. Let's say because there's 4 exercises or 4 sets of this first exercise, I want them to do 4 sets of this second exercise too. So then let's say I want them to do 4 sets of 6. And again, we'll just progress the weight. So we'll slide that over. Okay. And then we'll say I want to do another mobility here. So let's say 4 sets of 10, for example. And you can just copy paste those over. Okay, for my last block, usually for my accessories, let's say I want to do 3 sets. We'll go accessory 1. I'm going to merge that to 3 rows. They're sufficiently warm at this point. They probably don't need another warm-up set. I'll just write in 3 sets of 8. We'll do the same thing. I'm just going to copy this, actually. Copy that whole thing. Your keyboard shortcut for copy is Command-C or Control-C if you're on a PC. Change that to accessory 2. And then for this core exercise, can't spell today. For the last one, again, maybe they don't have to write in the weight, so I'll just leave that as 1 row. And we'll say 3 sets of 20 seconds, for example. Whoops, 3 times 20. And I'm going to go copy, paste. Your keyboard shortcut for cut, as in you're cutting something and putting it somewhere else, is Command or Control X. Okay, so from here, this is day 1 of our program. So I'm just going to select all of these. So remember, they'll be filling in their weight for week 3 in this column, so we want to make sure that's included too. And I'm just going to set up a border around all of these. So I'm going to select all borders. And now I want to put thicker lines around things to make this visually make a little bit more sense, right? So I'm going to put a thick border, select that first, all my exercises, and I'm going to select thick box border. I'm going to do the same thing around my top row as well. That has my week and my reps and weight. Now I want to make sure we know that we should group these 3 exercises together, group these 3 exercises together, and then group these 3 exercises together. So I'm going to select those first 3 exercises across the whole thing, make that a thick box border, select my next 3 exercises that should be together, make that a thick box border, then select the last 3, make that a thick box border, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my weeks. So week 1, I'll highlight that whole thing, thick box border. Week 2, highlight that whole thing, thick box border. Okay, so now I've got thick lines around week 1, week 2, week 3, and first block, second block, third block, okay? I also tend to like to make these, give these a little bit of color too, again, so it just makes it a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to select a muted color. Let's choose blue, for example, where I'm just going to do every other grouping. We'll get that background color just so now we can see, okay, we can very clearly do these exercises together, very clearly do these together, and then very clearly do these together. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to copy and paste this to make day 2. So I'll Command C. I'm going to leave a row in between, or a column in between, and I'm going to go Command V. And now I've got my second day. And it's fitting on 2 pages right now, so we need to fix that. So typically, I want to make my exercise column twice as wide as each of these reps and weight columns. So I'm going to select, you can click the whole column by selecting, I can click on A here. If I hold down Command or Control and I click I can select both of those 2 columns. And I am going to drag this here to change the width. So I'm going to make this, I really want it to be 1.2, but it won't let me select that. So we're going to go 1.21. Okay. So now those 2 columns are the same width. Like I said, I want to make that column twice as wide as each of these columns. So I'll select B. I'm going to hold down Shift and select G. So now that highlights that whole thing. And I'm going to edit this. So I had 1.2. So these are going to be 0.6 inches. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing. Click on J, hit Shift, and click on O. And again, I'm going to use this here to click and drag until it gets to 0.6 inches. Okay, so now it still doesn't quite fit. I'm just going to adjust this one in the middle as well. I'm also going to bring this down to 0.6 inches. So now we can see this is taking up pretty much the whole sheet, okay? If I want to make this so that it's dead center on it, you can see how there's still a little bit of space here. I'm just going to click and drag this until my O column lines up. Ooh, a little bit too far. There we go. Now we've got dead center in the middle of the page. All right. So that's how I basically set up my first card. Okay, from here, I'm going to add a warm-up at the top. Let's say I want to do the same warm-up every day. I'm probably just going to merge these all the way across. And then I'm going to left justify that. So let's say I put my warm-up there. Maybe it needs 2 lines. I'll merge one of those 2. All right. Okay, now I'm going to add another tab. And we're going to make maxes. So I'm just going to label this maxes. So I'll right-click it, rename. I'm going to make a roster. So we'll go name, back squat, hang, power, clean, and bench press. I'm just going to make that bold so it's easy to see. I'll go athlete A, athlete B, athlete C. Let's make a coach one as well. So here's how you insert a row. You'll click on the row that you want to go above, right click it, hit insert, and it'll insert another row there. So I'm going to make a coach row. And for my coach row, usually I just plug in 100 for everything so I can see the percents that I'm programming. So let's say athlete B has a back squat of 200. I'm just making up some numbers here. Okay, so now I have my small roster. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this sheet and I need to make a maxes, somewhere to put my maxes. So I'm gonna make a box here. I'm just gonna merge these. I'm gonna merge here. We'll go back squat, merge this one. Before I type in, I'm just gonna slide this down. Here we go. Now I have two merge cells, hang, power, clean, and bench press. Okay. So I'm gonna make this bold. I'm gonna give these all borders, and then I'm gonna make my thick box borders again. Thick box border, thick box border. All right. So now if we're gonna put maxes on the sheet, we need to have a name for at the top of our card. So I'm gonna insert another row up here. I right clicked it, I'll click insert, and I'm gonna merge these. So see how, because we made each of these rows, these columns, half the width of this, if I can select across that and merge it, it'll be centered on the page. So I'm gonna click on this. This is the cell where I wanna put my my athlete's name in. And I'm gonna click on data at the top here. And this little guy is called data validation. Depending on what version you have, it may save data validation, or it may be an icon that looks like this. I'm going to click on the little arrow next to it. I'm going to click on data validation. Under allow, I'm just going to select list. And then the source is going to be where it's drawing all this from. So I'm going to put my cursor in source here, and then I'm going to click on my maxes tab that I created. And I'm going to click on the first one that I'd like to select. So in this case, it's going to be coach. And I'm gonna hit shift and hold it down until I click the last athlete that I have. And then I'll hit enter or OK. So now, if you click on this cell that I selected, there's a little arrow that pops up on the right-hand side, and I have my roster here. So I can select coach, I can select athlete B, I can select whoever I want, okay? Now what I wanna do, oops, I added a row and now we don't fit. So I can either delete this one here or I can change the height of my cells. So I'm just going to delete this just to make it easy. Okay. Okay. Now I need to update my maxes. So it auto populates when I select the athlete at the top. So I'm going to click on this cell that I'd like to fill in. And we're going to do what's called a VLOOKUP. So I'm going to type equals VLOOKUP with my open parentheses. The lookup value, this is your key to tell you what you need to put into this formula. The lookup value is going to be this cell here. So that's going to reference the name that comes up here. When you're selecting this cell, even though it's merged, you have to click the upper leftmost cell. That's going to be my lookup value. I'll type comma. The table array is going to be the whole table that it's referencing. So I'll click on maxes and I'm going to select the whole table. So I'll start with coach. I'll hold down shift and select the opposite corner. Then the column index number is going to be what's being referenced in that cell. So this one, I wanted to know back squat. So my column is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4 here. So back squat is column 2. And then we're always going to just type false because it's going to be an exact match. So now we have this typed in, and we're actually going to put dollar signs in front of everything, like each of the letters and the numbers here, because these are not changing when I am looking at for different maxes. The only thing that's going to change is this column number here. So I'll just change those all to $F, $1, and $A, $2 to $D, $5, and I'm going to hit enter. So now you can see that I selected coach at the top, and 100 is the back squat number for coach. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for each of these. I'm just going to copy, paste, paste. The only thing that's different is the column number. So my cleans were column 3, and my bench press was column 4. So the one mistake I made here is I already did all my borders, and that's what made this cell thicker. So I'm just going to go back and fix it to make all my borders just regular borders, and then I'm going to go back and make the whole outer one a thick box border. That way it doesn't increase the size of my cell. So now you can see I had plugged in 100 pounds for each of the maxes for the coach. But if I change and I click on athlete B, now we can scroll down and now it auto-populates those down here. So this is really important for being able to program weights for your athlete. Show you what to do to program a percent based on these maxes that you've inputted. So we're going to use another formula. We're going to write equals M round, open parentheses, okay? M round just means that we are going to round to the nearest number that I determine, okay? So for example, let's say for this set of 5, I want to do 70% of my back squat, okay? So we'll go equals M round, open parentheses. I'm going to select this back squat number here. I'm going to go times 0.7. Then I'm going to write comma, and then multiple is what I want it to round to. So because we're in the weight room, I want it to round to the nearest 5 pounds. So I'm going to select 5, and then I'm going to close my parentheses. And then I'm going to add those dollar signs again in front of this because it's always going to reference the same cell, even if I copy and paste. So I'm going to change this to back squat so that we know that that's what we're referencing. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and paste here. Maybe the second set, I want to go 72.5%. And then this third set, oops, we're going to copy again, paste. Maybe I want to go 75% for this last set, or this next set. And then for this last set, let's say I want to go 77.5%, okay? So now it's still referencing that I-31, which is your back squat max cell, and it's auto-populating that based on the athlete I select. So again, if I select athlete C, you can watch those numbers change. If I select athlete A, you can watch those numbers change. And if I select coach, I can see the raw percentage. So that's why I like to have my coach card be 100s across the board. Let's do the same thing for bench press. So I'm going to go equals M round, open parentheses. I'll select that number that I want to round. So it'll be here times 0.7, comma, 5, because we're rounding to the nearest 5. Oops, I forgot to add my dollar signs. If I don't add those dollar signs when I copy, it's going to reference the next cell below it because I'm moving down a cell. We don't want that. We want it to reference the same max cell every time. Okay, so I'll change that to 0.725 again. Oops. Copy, paste, change that to 0.75 again, copy, paste, change that to 0.775. All right, so as you can see, because I had 100 plugged in for coach for both of those, the numbers are the same, but no athlete is going to have the same bench press as back squat, or at least we hope not. So when I select the actual athlete, it'll auto-populate those based on what their max actually is. So that's the easy way to set up your roster with all their maxes, and then to be able to automatically fill in weights that you want to program for them.